Team, biggest coverage. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
The front lines of Kargil. The fury of Operation Sindhu.
So many attacks.
The chaos and cries of disaster zones. To fighter jet cockpits. And the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break. Live, unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Center.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years.
You're watching Breaking Ground, a show not only about the headlines but the meaning behind them. I'm Vedika Sood. In a short while from now, Hamas will release a final batch of hostages as part of the ceasefire deal. We will bring you live updates from the ground on that big international story. But first, as always, the headlines at 12 noon. Ahead of the Bihar elections, massive setback for Lalu and family. Delhi court frames charges against the former railway minister, his wife Rabri Devi, RJD leader Tejasvi Yadav and others in the alleged corruption in the tender of 2 IRCTC hotels in Ranchi and Puri. Supreme Court orders CBI probe in the Karur stampede case. Top court slams High Court, says High Court's order was passed without hearing TVK. Durgapur rape survivor's father speaks to NDTV, slams West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee for her insensitive comment, says his daughter is not safe in the state of West Bengal. Hamas releases 7 of 20 hostages as part of ceasefire deal. Next batch to be released at 12:30 p.m. India time. US President Donald Trump will land in Israel any moment now to meet Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and address the Israeli parliament. Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand is in the national capital, marking a key step in efforts to reset bilateral relations and build a framework for deeper strategic cooperation between India and Canada. She will be meeting with the External Affairs Minister shortly. We start with the big story, especially ahead of the Bihar state elections. It's a big jolt to the Rashtriya Janata Dal's first family. Weeks ahead of the high-voltage election in the state of Bihar, a Delhi court today has framed charges in a corruption case against party founder Lalu Prasad. His son and Chief Minister face Tejasvi Yadav and former Chief Minister Lalu Yadav's wife Rabri Devi. In its order, the Rouse Avenue Court said the scam was planned with Lalu Yadav's knowledge and that the accused were part of a larger conspiracy. The court also said Lalu and his family benefited from the scam. Lalu and his family have been charged with several offences, including criminal conspiracy and cheating. The case relates to allegations of corruption in the allotment of maintenance contracts at IRCTC hotels during Lalu Yadav's tenure as railway minister from the years 2004 to 2009. It is alleged that the maintenance contract of 2 IRCTC hotels was awarded to a private company in a fraudulent manner. The CBI has alleged that in return for this deal, Lalu Yadav got 3 acres of prime land through a Benami company. The CBI filed a FIR against Lalu Yadav and his family members way back in 2017. A political face-off has broken out over the court order, with the BJP saying it is a reflection of the corruption perpetrated by Lalu and his family. The RJD has hit back, saying the BJP is misusing agencies for vendetta.
करप्शन, कुशासन और क्राइम का जो कुनबा है, वो कुनबा जो है वो फिर से एक बार जो है वो कानून के शिकंजे में फंसा हुआ है। और अगर आपका ये करप्शन, कुशासन और क्राइम का ये कुनबा जो है वो एक बार गठबंधन करके जो है वो फिर से कुशासन लाने की सोच रहा होगा, तो उनकी सोच पर भी जो है वो फिर से एक बार पब्लिक तो जनता की अदालत तो उसको जो है वो देगी ही देगी और कानून भी अपने हिसाब से काम करेगा।
देखिए, भारतीय जनता पार्टी और एनडीए के पाप का घड़ा अब भर चुका है। वो चाहती है कि पॉलिटिकल वेंडिटा का इस्तेमाल कर करके एजेंसियों का दुरुपयोग करें और न्यायालय में साक्ष्य प्रस्तुत कर करके लालू और उनके परिवार को हम तंग और तबाह करें। जिन मामलों को बंद कर दिया गया था, बलात् उसको रीओपन कर करके न्यायालय में प्रस्तुत कर रही है। चुनाव माथे पर है, बिहार का चुनाव है, डरी हुई है भारतीय जनता पार्टी। इन किन प्रकार बिहार की सत्ता में आना चाहती है।
Of course, huge ramifications with this development. We have our reporters from New Delhi as well as Bihar joining us live. Nupur Dogra, legal correspondent, Aishwarya Jain joining me, Prabhakar Kumar, Ankit Tyagi as well. Nupur, let's begin with you since you're outside the court at this point. Tell us more about the charges. Explain the charges to our viewers.
Well, Vedika, the charges against Lalu Prasad Yadav is first of all misusing his office and conspiring into criminal conspiracy and cheating, and especially it is said that it is Lalu Prasad Yadav who was part of the larger conspiracy, and the court also observed that he misused and abused his power in position to hatch this conspiracy, where this particular hotel chain, Sujata chain, who is owned by Vinay and Vijay Kochar, the two other accused in the case, they benefited in a way that after they manipulated the tender process, and thus the management of VNR hotels that are the IRCTC hotels were handed over to them, and in return they gave 3-acre land in the name of Rabdi Devi and Tejasvi, which were routed through a Benami company. Now these claims are being made that since Lalu Prasad Yadav was in fact the railway minister at that time, the CBI has made a detailed charge sheet and has also framed charges of cheating against Rabdi Devi as well as Tejasvi Yadav. So this is in fact a big setback for the Yadav family. And remember, just another case, which is the land for jobs case, the Rouse Avenue Court is also expected to deliver its verdict today only on framing of charges in that case also, and in that more members of the Yadav family, which includes Lalu Prasad Yadav's daughter and Tej Prasad Yadav, are also accused. So it will be important to see that whether there is more setback from the Delhi court today for the Yadav family.
All right, let's go to Prabhakar now. Prabhakar, what is the impact going to be on the ground? You've been tracking all the developments politically and otherwise. What impact can we expect ahead of the big Bihar elections on the ground?
See, as far as these cases against Lalu Prasad Yadav is concerned, it's nothing new. But just because it has the fresh judgment has come in this particular case from the court, and the Bihar elections are already, the ball has set rolling out here. So this entire episode would play out in the election campaign, both from the opposition camp but also from the ruling camp. You will see the JDU and the BJP leaders using every dais, every political rally actually crying, talking about this and alleging Lalu Prasad Yadav of corruption charges, whereas they would play victim. That is the India Alliance leaders, especially the RJD, would play victim, and they would certainly try to make this point to the public that how they are being victimized during the election time, and to disrupt the entire election campaign which they are carrying out. So this particular case, this particular episode of IRCTC scam would certainly be echoing in the coming Bihar campaign when it happens on the ground.
Ankit, you're also with us, and you've just spent more than 10 days in the state of Bihar. You've been on the ground, you've been interacting with the youth, you've been interacting with representatives of all political parties. Was this a talking point at all? We were expecting this case to come up, the framing of charges to happen, but was this really a moot point in Bihar?
You know, when you talk about the people, I mean, there are issues of the bread and butter that hog their, headspace at this moment. But you can't discount the fact that every time there is the opposition charge on Lalu Prasad Yadav and his family, it's particularly on three important things. Number one is the Jungle Raj, number two is corruption, and number three is, of course, the dynasty rule. Now, the timing of this, whether this is new or not, as Bhakan was saying, he's right. It's not new. These cases have been going on. For Lalu Prasad Yadav, remember, the BJP always says that these cases were not registered under their regime. It was registered under the UPA government. But the fact that the timing of this coming at a time when already the seat sharing of the NDA has happened, the Mahagathbandhan is still struggling to find their formula. this is going to have some sort of a news cycle and will hog the mind space as far as the voters are concerned. For a lot of undecided voters, those who are saying that, they are bored of Nitish Kumar, it's been 20 years, when they think of a new alternative, the question then would be, would you want to go with an alternative which is already struggling or at least having corruption charges against them? And that is what Tejasvi Yadav will have to fight in the upcoming election.
Absolutely, a big challenge ahead of the elections for him, Aishwarya, isn't it? Given that the BJP now is saying, look at this family, it's been so corrupt for so long, and then you have the RJD saying, you are using your tools against us, be it the EC, be it the CBI, you're always using it against the opposition parties. Aishwarya.
Well, that's right. In fact, the Bharatiya Janata Party went on to say that this Mahagathbandhan is the face of corruption, and look at the charges that now have been framed against the Yadav family. This clearly shows that how they were involved in corruption, in criminal conspiracies, and this is what they were doing. In fact, the JDU also went on to say that this is the reason perhaps Lalu Yadav had been, distancing themselves when they were in the power from the corruption, and they took corruption very lightly, and therefore the reason perhaps JDU differed with the RJD and they parted ways with them. But today certainly it is when the RJD and the Congress party clearly calling it a conspiracy, the cases that were shut down, then it was reopened again, and the timing that they were questioning, in fact, just before the Bihar elections, why the CBI filed the charge sheet, and now at this point in time the charges had been framed as well. This is all political witch hunt, a vendetta is what the RJD and the Congress party has been calling. Certainly later in the day in the national capital we will see perhaps Tejasvi Yadav meeting Rahul Gandhi, will be finalizing the seat sharing for the Mahagathbandhan in the upcoming Bihar Assembly elections, and therefore the reason perhaps they knew that this is going to happen, but certainly what impact this will be on the ground as far as Bihar Assembly elections are concerned, that remains to be seen.
Absolutely, and that key meeting this afternoon or evening with Tejasvi, Lalu Prasad and Rahul Gandhi, Aishwarya will bring us all the details on that. I'm going to go back to Ankit in a moment from now, but I believe Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi has also reacted on this. Let's listen in.
आरजेडी का मैंने बयान देखा, वो कह रहे हैं कि आप लोग एजेंसियों का दुरुपयोग करके ये कर रहे हैं और कोर्ट में साक्ष्य प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं।
अच्छा, ये क्या हम बीजेपी ने कहा था क्या कि आप जो है वो जॉब के बदले जो है वो लैंड लीजिए? क्या ये बीजेपी ने कहा था क्या कि आप करप्शन कीजिए? क्या ये बीजेपी ने कहा था क्या कि आप जो है वो घोटाले कीजिए? अरे भैया, आप घोटालों के गुरु घंटाल बने हुए हैं, उसके बाद आप कहेंगे कि जी हमारे साथ जो है वो अन्याय हो रहा है, इमोशनल अत्याचार करेंगे, वो नहीं चलेगा।
अभी चुनाव अब शुरू हो गए हैं, तो क्या ये चुनावी मुद्दा भी आप लोग बनाएंगे? चुनावी मुद्दा बनेगा ये?
देखो, ऐसा है, एक चीज़ आपको समझना चाहिए, ये गुनाहों का जो गठबंधन है, गुनाहों के गठबंधन की गठरी में जितने गुनाहों के छेद हैं, उससे ज़्यादा इनके अंदर जो है महत्वाकांक्षी मतभेद हैं। छेद को रफू करने, मतभेद को रफू चक्कर करने में चुनाव भी निपट जाएगा और ये भी निपट जाएंगे।
Ankit, ammunition enough for the BJP and another challenge for Tejasvi, who's been focusing on Berozgari so much for him and his party to fight at this point.
Absolutely. And when Tejasvi Yadav is going to speak about Berozgari, the BJP is going to say that, the entire Rozgar was given only to the Lalu family. What else? What are you talking about the people? That is something that, and trust me, this is right now Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and the other BJP leaders. Very soon you'll start hearing this from the top leadership, from the Prime Minister, from the Home Minister when they hit the campaign trail as far as Bihar is concerned. But I just wanted to make a very quick point, Vedika, when, as Aishwarya was also speaking about the JDU possibly coming out, and Prabhakar and I have been speaking about this on the ground. When BJP attacks, it's a different thing. When JDU comes out and says that Lalu Prasad family is corrupt, they knew that they were corrupt. These are not new cases. These cases were against them even when Nitish Kumar switched sides twice with the Mahagathbandhan and with the Lalu Prasad Yadav family. So today, the JDU come out and saying we distance because they are corrupt. Well, that is not going to cut ice whether the defense of the RJD does with voters or not, time will tell.
Yes.
But JDU can't claim innocence as far as this is concerned.
Ankit, Nupur, Aishwaryan, Prabhakar, thank you so much for joining me on Breaking Ground right at the top of 12 noon. This, of course, is a big story here on NDTV 24/7. The political ramifications, every aspect, every angle on it, these reporters will bring you more. The other big story, a political storm has erupted after a student from Odisha was gang raped in Durgapur, with West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and others from a party facing a massive backlash over controversial remarks in the Durgapur rape case. Mamata questioned why the survivor was quote-unquote out late at night and blamed the college administrators for not monitoring their students. According to the West Bengal Chief Minister, it was the responsibility of the institute to ensure no female student was out off the premises after 12:30 at night, as the children needed protection. Now, NDTV has accessed the FR copy, which shows that as per the father's complaint, this incident took place, in fact, 4 hours, 20 minutes before what the TMC government is claiming, which is at about 8 o'clock in the evening, or rather at night. In fact, NDTV also spoke to the father of the survivor, who expressed shock on how a chief minister of the state of West Bengal could speak this way. All right, I do believe that we are getting news coming in at this point of US President Donald Trump landing in Israel. This is a part of the ceasefire deal, and he was scheduled to reach at some point now. There you can see Air Force One there landing at that airstrip. Donald Trump is going to be speaking with the Prime Minister of Israel shortly after landing there. Donald Trump, of course, had said before, or rather moments after taking off, that the war is over in Gaza. A big statement made by the President of the United States of America. This comes at a time when the hostage release has begun in Gaza and Israel. At the border, we're being told that the IDF has with them 7 of the 20 hostages that the Hamas were to release, and those 7 hostages now with the IDF. This is going to be a significant visit by Donald Trump to Israel. He is also expected to speak in their parliament. He is also expected to meet with the families of the hostages. Remember, Donald Trump has taken full credit for the release of the hostages that are now, some of them, with Israel. We expect another 13 to be released in another 15 minutes from now. A timely landing of the US President Donald Trump out there, and I have Vishal joining me live. Vishal, very timely landing there by US President Donald Trump, and he has a packed day ahead. He will be meeting with the families of the hostages. There is an address due in Parliament. Just take us through the itinerary and the significance of this man, US President Donald Trump's visit to Israel at this point.
Well, he's also said to be awarded the biggest civilian honor in Israel, and that's just one of the things that is supposed to happen. As you rightly mentioned, it's a big itinerary for him. He's supposed to meet the Prime Minister there for the first time ever since the ceasefire deal was signed, and then he'll go to the Israeli Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament, where he's supposed to address the whole parliament, and then he'll proceed to for the rest of the day's proceedings. He's also expected to make a big statement. We don't know what that statement exactly will be, but we'll soon get to know that. And then moving ahead, he'll go straight away fly to Egypt, which will be around 3 p.m. India time. That is where the big world summit is happening, the peace summit as it is being built. They are saying that many world leaders, from Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to French President Emmanuel Macron, they are all supposed to be there. Starmer, the UK PM, is already there. So many of the top leaders are already congregating as we speak. That will be held in the coastal town of Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. It's a very restive place, but it has had a range of activities in the last phase. We saw the last round of discussions, last round of negotiations between both the warring parties. That was also held in Sharm el-Sheikh. What happens in this peace summit, that is being closely watched by experts, because that will sort of lay out the way forward, because the war has already dragged on for 2 years. Now we have a ceasefire in place, but it has already killed almost 70,000 people on both the sides, mostly on the Gazan side, mostly children and women. What happens now, that will be determined by the peace summit that is supposed to happen in Sharm el-Sheikh. So all eyes on that summit. We have had, pictures of the release. We have seen that. We have heard reports from the Israeli media that the Israeli military has already taken charge of the 7 hostages that were released by the Hamas side. We are still waiting for confirmation on the remaining 13 living hostages that are still in Hamas captivity. So that will happen any moment now. And then this episode of, the hell that these hostages had faced in the last 2 years, that is supposed to end. And it also, brings in the one of the biggest inflection points in the war so far. This sort of signifies Hamas has been defeated. Whether it, cows down and, lays down the arms, that is also one of the biggest questions. But this is indeed the biggest moment in the war so far. The hostages will be released, and following that, almost 2,000 prisoners from the Gazan side and the West Bank side, they're also supposed to be released. This is the swap agreement that they had. But the road ahead, that will be quite difficult, because Hamas, for the terrorist group to lay down the arms, that is the biggest worry at the moment.
A lasting peace seems distant for now. Even though we have Trump at the center stage of it all, he's getting a hero's welcome in Israel because of the, this fragile truce that he's brokered. But a lasting peace in Gaza and between the two, at the border is something that is going to be very difficult to really achieve at this point.
Yes, and that is the biggest point of contention when it comes to the aforementioned Sharm el-Sheikh summit, which has attracted almost 20 global leaders. Representatives from India are also expected to be there. Some reports suggest that Kirti Singh will be there. We'll have to wait for confirmation on that. But you rightly mentioned the road ahead will be quite difficult. This is just the first phase of the 20-point plan that Trump had proposed. Both the sides have agreed on many of the things that they did not agree on in the past. But when it comes to questions such as Hamas laying down the arms, the top leaders, being moved out of Gazan territory, the leadership that will be brought in, whether that will only have, foreign players or some local authorities will also be there, because Hamas has been told that it will have no place in the future government of Gaza. Whether Hamas will accept this term or not, these are some of the biggest questions. And these questions have not really been answered in a detailed manner as far as the 20-point plan is concerned. Only the surface layer agreement is signed so far. So as you rightly mentioned that when it comes to long-term peace in Gaza, there is still a big question mark. But these are some really good times for Gazan people, particularly, and also the hostage families, because the 2-year ordeal has finally ended. But many questions whether Israel will agree to fully withdraw from the Gazan Strip. That is also one of the biggest questions. There are 3 layers of withdrawals that have been proposed.
Right.
They have proposed to the first level. The remaining levels we'll have to see.
Vishal, do stay with me. I'm going to draw in Gauri as well, who has been standing by. Gauri, let's talk to these visuals that we're seeing, live visuals there from Israel. The man of the moment is US President Donald Trump. You have the Israeli Prime Minister also standing by with his wife, waiting to receive him. A hero's welcome, but the big question really will be, what after?
Indeed, Vedika, and you have to give credit to the Trump administration. At the end of the day, discussions around ceasefire, discussions around ending this war actually began during the Biden regime, but didn't make any progress. All those talks repeatedly broke down. So to that effect, you've got to give credit to the Trump administration, to Donald Trump, that he did manage to broker this peace. So that, of course, is extremely significant. Of course, the president said on board Air Force One that now there's going to be peace. War has ended. Now, that's a very sweeping statement that he has made, because he hopes that what is actually a ceasefire will be a long-term peace plan. And I think that's where the distinction needs to be made in mind. What prevails right now is a ceasefire. There are some conditions on both sides which have still not been accepted. But will that translate into long-term peace is the larger question. I think that's the real problem here that needs to be seen going forward. As things stand, yes, there is a ceasefire. You've seen those live visuals that are coming in of heroes' welcome that is being accorded to Donald Trump, and rightfully so, again, because at the end of the day, this is a war that's been raging on for 2 years. And one of the most crucial aspects, which is to bring those hostages back, is something that the Trump administration has been able to broker through and has been able to get that deal going. So to that effect, these visuals essentially telling the story as it is, which is that Donald Trump did end the war as things stand right now in the Middle East. But will that translate into a long-term peace formula is the second aspect of which where there are many questions that exist. And how soon will those questions be answered, Vedika, will essentially provide us a roadmap in terms of the future peace formula for the entire region.
In moments from now, there will be a photo op which will also be marked in the history of relations between Israel and the US when Donald Trump deplanes from Air Force One and he meets with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. They will also be holding talks, after which Donald Trump will be addressing the Israeli parliament. There is also a top honor that Trump will be accorded. That was announced by the Israeli president some time back. But in moments from now, Donald Trump will take center stage in Israel. This comes at a time when 7 Israeli hostages have been released in Gaza and are now in the custody of the Israeli military, the IDF. And this has been confirmed by them. Crowds have erupted in cheers at Tel Aviv's Hostages Square as news of the release spread. Also, we're expecting in about 10 minutes from now, if not earlier, the remaining 13 hostages, Gauri, that will be released by the Hamas and handed over perhaps to the IDF, since they already have the first 7 hostages with them. We're expecting that in 10 minutes from now, which makes it 20 hostages that will be handed over as part of that fragile ceasefire agreement. Gauri.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Vedika. 7 hostages have been released. It was essentially, earlier it was said that they will be released in batches of 4 with 5 hostages in each of those batches. But that's still a fluid situation because Hamas now wants to be seen to be releasing the hostages without causing any last-minute roadblock whatsoever. So those 13 hostages, the alive hostages will come out first, and then the remains of the 28 hostages that have been killed by Hamas will also be handed over to the Israeli authorities. That is going to happen in the second stage. After the living hostages, those who are alive will be handed over. And that is when you will see those huge celebrations and big smiles, and rightfully so, because this is a moment that the entire Israel government, the people have been waiting for 2 long years, and countries have been trying to broker that. You know, administrations have changed to ensure that this finally happens. So when those 13 living hostages finally come in Israeli territory, cross over to the Israeli side, are then taken care of, then you can see at least the living hostages are back home. For a moment,
yes, you can see the US President Donald Trump there with that victory sign that he just made with his fist there, and being greeted now very shortly by the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, and his wife. You have a huge entourage there awaiting Donald Trump's arrival while he deplanes from Air Force One. His family members also there, Gauri. I just spotted Ivanka and her husband there. So this is also going to be a moment where the family is with Donald Trump while he is the man, the face of the peace. We don't know how long it lasts right now, Gauri, but the fragile peace that he has attempted to broker in the Middle East. Gauri.
Indeed, Vedika, because, there are 2 sides to it. One is the diplomatic side to it, which is where the administration is brokering this peace, talking, there are these 2 prime ministers who are talking, but the optics are also not just about a diplomatic solution. The optics are about people who've been held hostage for 780 days, finally seeing sunlight, finally seeing them reuniting with their families. So there is those optics as well, which is why the presence of family members, and in fact, Ivanka's husband, Jared Kushner, played a very critical role in Trump's earlier presidency with regard to Middle East. So he knows the lay of the land to that effect. And the presence of several of those families is important because, as I said, the optics are not just about a statesman or a diplomatic solution, far more than that, and which is why this moment is going to be extremely important for Donald Trump and his MAGA base. But one also needs to keep in mind that while, of course, the victory belongs right now, the credit belongs to Donald Trump, back-channel lines of communication, Vedika, were very actively done by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And they've played a very critical role along with Turkey to ensure that some of this ceasefire formula that has been proposed several times is agreed to ensure the immediate hostilities on both sides end. So while America does get credit, Donald Trump and his administration do get a lot of
live visuals coming in. Let's just try to dip in and try to hear the conversation between the leaders of the US and Israel for a moment there. The audio isn't that clear, but coming back to Gauri now. Gauri, we are seeing the final batch of hostages come back. But the question also at this point is, can this really be seen as the end of this war? Will Hamas remain in power in Gaza is the biggest question. And I think that will be answered once Trump moves to Egypt as well.
You know, there are 2-3 things that need to be kept in mind, Vedika. First and foremost, the kind of tunnel network that Hamas has, many analysts say it's actually as much as the tube tunnel network that exists in London. And most of it is still intact, which means that the core tunnel network, which has been very influential in Hamas's entire terror network, still exists. So for it to, be demolished is going to be a major demand from the Israeli side. Secondly, they're still armed. They still have a very large cache of weaponry. And thirdly, Hamas has not agreed to the term that they're going to completely vacate the Gaza Strip. So in the wake of these very important dimensions to the peace formula, one needs to keep in mind that the presence of Hamas, the fact that they are armed, the fact that their tunnel network exists, and the fact that they have shown no inclination whatsoever to hand over the complete running of the area to another authority indicates that there are tough decisions to be made ahead. So while we must celebrate this moment today because it's an extremely important, pivotal moment in the entire region's conflict, one needs to keep in mind that from here on, the roadmap towards peace will require several of these questions to be answered, and that also means role of Hamas. The other authority that we are talking about that will come about and take care of running of this area will come about. The Gaza Authority will only happen once Hamas vacates that area, once Hamas shows the willingness to ensure that it lets go of its arms, lets go of its entire weaponry, and the cadre that exists there, all of which has not been completely demolished. So those questions, Vedika, are something that the world will need answers to. Some of that, one may assume, we may get at the Sharm el-Sheikh summit that will take place in Egypt in a couple of hours from now, but not all of them.
Gauri, do stay with me. Vishal, do stay with me as well. I will be coming back to both our correspondents who have been covering this for us. But I believe that Jonathan Kornikas, a former IDF spokesperson, is joining me live. Jonathan, thanks for speaking with the NDTV 24/7. It's been 2 years of endless pain, suffering, uncertainty. How's the atmosphere and the anticipation back home in Israel as we speak?
Oh, it's absolutely electric. And the build-up, as you say correctly, it's been going on for so long, more than 2 years. Such tremendous suffering, uncertainty, cruelty, psychological warfare by Hamas, who have been taunting the families and manipulating their feelings in trying to extract political gain by sending these horrible videos of emaciated and very skinny hostages in order to try to get Israel to cave under pressure. But today is a very happy day for anybody around the world that wants to see justice. Finally, Israeli hostages are being returned. They're being returned to their loving embrace of the families.
Yes.
20 live hostages will be returned today. Hopefully, 28 bodies will also be returned. I understand that Hamas has said that they have difficulties allocating all of the bodies of the murdered hostages, and we should anticipate at least a few not to be returned today. But all in all, this is a milestone. It's a very exciting moment. There are people out on the streets in Hostage Square,
Yes.
down in the south, where close to the military base Re'im, where the hostages will be brought into Israel for the first time. There are people waiting outside of hospitals. There are people lining the streets. There are people that are waving flags in every square and town in the city. We're a small country in Western Asia of less than 10 million. So in Indian size, this is very, very small, hardly a city. But the entire, you can really feel the love, the excitement, and the so much pressure that is being released after 2 years of war, and the suffering of the families may now hopefully come to an end. Those that get their loved ones back for healing, and those that unfortunately only get the remains of their loved ones, at least to bury them properly.
You know, Jonathan, we're getting you live visuals of Donald Trump reaching Israel at this point, but parallelly, in moments from now, we are hoping and expecting for 17 more of those Israeli hostages to be released by the Hamas. But Israel is also releasing close to 2,000 prisoners, Jonathan. Does the current agreement mark a shift in Israel's negotiation doctrine with terror groups, or is this just a tactical exception under pressure?
Yeah, sadly, I don't think that it is a different Israeli strategy. By the way, I have been calling on Israel to completely overhaul the way that we deal with hostage-taking situations, because if we zoom out for a second here and address this issue strategically, and I think this is relevant for viewers in India and viewers all around the world and governments all around the world who face Islamic radical Islamic organizations, that hostage taking must be stopped, and democracies and countries fighting against these terror organizations must, I think, really reform how that whole issue is addressed. And there needs to be different legislation, there needs to be different military measures, and different legal and diplomatic framework to make it not valuable for terror organizations, or not profitable for terror organizations to take hostages. Because when you look at this strategically, what Hamas did one day, October 7th, 2 years ago, they took 251 hostages, and that in fact was a strategic checkmate for Hamas against Israel. We've been dealing with the consequences ever since, and I think that needs to be prevented in the future. There needs to be different legal frameworks simply to make it illegal to return Palestinian convicted terrorists as a part of a hostage deal. And there needs to be different legal measures, and there needs to be different military measures, because at the end of the day, if we don't put a stop to it now, we will see other terror organizations in the future try to emulate what Hamas did, sadly, so successfully. So what we're seeing today is the release of convicted Palestinian terrorists with lots of blood on their hands, Jewish blood, Christian blood, Arab blood on their hands. And that is sad, but that is what Israel has been forced to do as part of this deal. We're getting our brothers and sisters back, and that's the primary focus for us. But from here on, I've been campaigning for there to be a different Israeli strategy, and my recommendation for freedom-loving democracies like India is to do exactly the same, to make it not worthwhile for terrorists to take hostages.
Cannot also forget at this point the kind of casualty numbers we're seeing in Gaza as well. The casualties, unfortunately, have been on both sides. We've seen the comments from the president as well, essentially hinting at continued conflict. Will Israel continue its assault on Hamas? Because this is a fragile truce that we've been talking about ever since the ceasefire between the Hamas and Israel has been announced.
Well, it depends on whether Hamas will honor the agreement. The agreement that they agreed to, that Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt have vouched for, is that Hamas will disarm and that they will relinquish control over the Gaza Strip. If Hamas does those two things, there is absolutely no reason for Israel to continue to fight. And I think Israel would rather prefer not to continue to put troops at danger and have all of the negativity in fighting. But if Hamas refuses, if they renege on their commitment, Israel will have no choice. And Israelis are not safe as long as Hamas exists. So whether it happens peacefully, as the Trump plan stipulates, or it happens with the use of force, at the end of the day, this war will be over only once Hamas is dismantled and the Gaza Strip is de-radicalized and taken from the talons of this jihadi terror organization.
All right, Jonathan, thanks for joining us live there from Tel Aviv, and thanks for adding perspective on what we should expect in the coming days from Israel. But Vishal is with me, and so is Gauri. Vishal, let's again switch gears and talk about the man that you see on your screens right now in the Beast there, his car, the private car of the American president. Let's talk for a moment about the top honor that he is about to receive from Israel as well for the truce that he's brokered.
Well, this was highly expected because, he has sort of single-handedly pulled Netanyahu out of big trouble, because Netanyahu had been in trouble back home in his territory and also when it comes to his foreign policy, because there were protests, consisting of thousands of people, lakhs of people almost every month against his regime, whether be it against his corruption scandal that has been involved in, or be it the Gaza war, which had resulted in the capture of almost 250 hostages. Now almost all of them will be released, and there were many questions as to what is the plan, what is the long-term plan when it comes to the Gaza war, because there seemed to be no end in sight as far as Netanyahu is concerned. But Trump swooped in and he cracked this big deal between both the warring parties. Actually, some better deals had been offered to both the sides in the past, but they had rejected the deal. But this time they agreed to the deal. Whether it was some backdoor diplomacy by the Trump administration, that remains to be seen. But he has been quite open about it and talked about it frequently. He has rushed in his top people to the Middle Eastern side, whether be it Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner. They had been regularly in touch with both the sides, both Israel and Hamas, to broker this deal. When that big summit happened in Sharm el-Sheikh about a week ago, that was after months, because both the sides, Israel and Hamas, they had particularly almost stopped talking, and to bring those parties on talking terms, even though indirectly, that also took a lot of courage and a lot of discipline from both the sides, particularly from the Trump side. And he has been able to crack that deal, and he was billing himself as the Nobel Peace Prize winner. That didn't happen, but yes, many experts are suggesting that that could happen next year.
All right, and Gauri, we all talk about Trump, the media's talk about Trump. Trump himself is giving himself credit also for the truce brokered. But the real negotiations have also been because of Qatar and Egypt. They've had a huge role to play as well.
In fact, absolutely right, Vedika. When it comes to the role that Egypt has played, that it actually kept lines of communications on. When all talk past broke down, it was these back channel lines of communication through Qatar and Egypt that essentially ensured that those prospects, a possibility of some sort of peace formula being active in the love of these two other parties, and which is why Egypt is the co-chair of summit that is going to take place. Deserve credit, but so some of the Egypt, in fact, is extremely important, which is why the summit also take place at Sharm el-Sheikh with being and
I think so. We'll have to leave.
That part of this.
We'll try and come back to you in a moment from now. But there you see the Beast driving away from the airstrip there in Tel Aviv. The man of the moment, Donald Trump. Let's just listen into his comment there.
And we're doing a lot of things. We're ending some programs that we don't want. They happen to be Democrat-sponsored programs, but we're ending some programs that we never wanted, and we're probably not going to allow them to come back. I think they made a mistake. I think they made a big mistake. This is really a Schumer shutdown because he's become sort of irrelevant, and he wants to make himself relevant again.
And in terms of the politics of this historic peace deal that we're on the way to go sign right now, you would think it's good for everybody, but at a rally this weekend, they were cheering for you and they were booing Netanyahu. What's up with that?
I don't know, but we're going to make everybody happy. The one thing I can tell you is everybody is happy, whether it's Jewish or Muslim or the Arab countries. Every country is dancing in the streets, and it's a point in time I don't think you'd ever see it again. They've never seen it for 3,000 years. If you like one group, you don't like the other group. And if you like the other group, you don't like the first group. And this is the first time they've ever seen where everybody is unified, because as you know, we're going to Egypt after Israel, and we're going to meet all of the leaders of the very powerful and big countries and very rich countries and others, and they're all into this deal. Everybody's into it. It's never happened before. So I would say this is a lot tougher, but we'll see how it all works out.
Mr. President, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, has not gone so far as to say the war is over. In your view, is the war over?
The war is over. The war is over. The war is over. Okay, do you understand that? Good.
Is the ceasefire going to hold? Are you confident the ceasefire will hold? Are you confident that the ceasefire is going to hold?
I think so. I think it's going to hold. I think people are, a lot of reasons why it's going to hold, but I think people are tired of it. It's been centuries, okay? Not just recent, it's been centuries. I think people are tired of it. Yeah, the ceasefire is going to hold, and we're going to make sure it holds.
Mr. President, what will Gaza look like a year from now?
Wait, the International Stabilization Force, that's part of the...
Good, strong force. I don't think it's going to have a big impact, because I think barely we're going to have to use it. I think people are everybody knows their place. It's going to be great for everybody. It's going to be great for the surrounding countries, Arab, Muslim, all of them. It's going to be great for Israel. Everybody is happy, and I think it's going to stay that way. Peter?
And if the ceasefire does hold, how long until we get to the part of the 20-point peace plan where developers can go in and make Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East?
Well, I don't know about the Riviera for a while, because you take a look at what you have. You have to get people taken care of first. But it's going to start really essentially immediately. I mean, they're going to have to start by removing a lot of structures that you see that are down to the ground. I mean, it's blasted. This is like a demolition site. Almost the entire site is. So you have to get rid of what you have there. You have structures that are very dangerous. They're falling down. If they haven't fallen, they're going to fall down of their own volition. So that process, Peter, is going to start pretty much immediately in that way.
What will it look like a year from now, in your view?
Well, a year, that's very quick. But over the years, it'll look very good. It'll be, it's got the first chance it's had in centuries of being peaceful. It's always been a very, very strange area. It's always been loaded up with problems, religious problems, problems like no other place probably in the world. And I think it's going to normalize. All you can say, if it normalizes, that would be fantastic.
The governance structure, sir, that you have set up in that peace plan, how soon will that new governing body be in place?
Very quickly. And everybody wants to be a part of it. You're talking about the Board of Peace?
That's right.
Everybody wants to be a part of it. I've had calls from all of the leaders of countries. They all want to be a part. I mean, the leaders themselves, they're not going to send somebody. They want to be a part of it.
Do you know who's going to be a part of it?
I do.
Can you share?
No, not yet. It's a little early.
Tony Blair. Have you spoken to Tony Blair about it since the... Have you spoken to Tony Blair about it?
I have, and I want to find out that Tony would be popular with all, because I just don't know that. And I like Tony. I've always liked Tony, but I want to find out that he's an acceptable choice to everybody.
What guarantees have you been able to give to both the Israelis and the Arab countries? The Israelis are very...
And we have a lot of verbal guarantees too. And I don't think they're going to want to disappoint me. I have a lot of verbal guarantees that aren't down in writing, but they were given to me, and I believe they're going to be held very strongly. That's why I think it's going to be successful.
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you, Mr. President. Thank you. Good to see you. I'm sure you've seen reports of Hamas rearming, instituting themselves as a Palestinian police force, shooting rivals. What is your message?
Where they are standing, because they do want to stop the problems. and they've been open about it, and we gave them approval for a period of time. You have to understand, they've lost probably 60,000 people. That's a lot of retribution. They've lost 60,000 people, and the ones that are living right now were, in many cases, very young when this all started. And we are having them watch that there's not going to be big crime or some of the problems that you have when you have areas like this that have been literally demolished. You know, you have 2 million people, and probably it'll be less than that, but you have close to 2 million people going back to buildings that have been demolished. And a lot of bad things can happen. So we want it to be safe. I think it's going to be fine.
Mr. President,
Who knows for sure, Katie, but I think it's going to be fine.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Hi. What is the latest that you've heard about the hostages, when they will be released? Do you expect to meet with any of them?
The hostages might be even a little early, but I don't want to say that. So they have the hostages. I understand all 20, and we may get them out a little bit early. Getting them was amazing, actually, because we were involved, and they were in places that you don't want to know about. Deep.
Some of the top Biden administration folks who were there, like Antony Blinken, seem to want some credit for the peace deal. Blinken says it's good that President Trump adopted and built on the plan that the Biden administration developed. What do you think about that?
Everybody knows it's a joke. Look, they did such a bad job. This should have never happened. This wouldn't have even happened. That was weak leadership, terrible. And the same thing with Russia, Ukraine. If just a decent president, not a great president like me, not a great president. If a decent president was in, you wouldn't have had the Russia-Ukraine. And this is, I would say, even more so. This was bad policy by Biden and by Obama. Remember when Bibi came and he begged that you not do what they were doing with Iran? You remember that, right? Begged them. And they wouldn't even listen to him. Everything they did was the opposite what you should have done. And it's nice that they try and take a little credit. That was years ago, and the mistakes were made years ago, and it was both by Biden and Obama.
And so what did you do so differently? Because I know a lot of it was behind the scenes. So what did you do so much differently than Joe Biden to end the war?
I resonated with the Arab leaders, the Muslim leaders, and the Jewish leaders. For whatever reason, you tell me why. You know, he said that in my first news conference, I answered more questions of him than Biden did in 4 years. And I think that's pretty close to being true.
No, there were no Pinocchios in the fact check.
That's right.
Mr. President, your relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu has been through some ups and downs. You had to get a little tough on him. Where is that relationship now, and can you tell us about it?
Very good. He just put me up for the Nobel Prize. So, you know, I don't know what it means with the Nobel Prize, but he put me up yesterday for the Nobel Prize, and I should get it. I mean, I think it's very good.
Has he made commitments to you personally about moving forward to the next phase of peace?
Look, let me tell you, he's a wartime president. He did a very good job. I had some disputes with him, and they were quickly settled. I can tell you that. But as far as I'm concerned, I think he's done a great job. I think he was the right person at this time. You know, look, it's been this way for centuries. You know, we're not talking about for 10 years, for 5. It's been this way for centuries. And he did a great job. And working with me, he was fantastic. Now, working with Biden, no good. They didn't get along, and they had the opposite, because Biden and Obama backed Iran. And just so when you talk about a thing like that, if you think they were backing Iran, when you back Iran, this wouldn't have worked. And had we not taken out the Iran nuclear facility and we made the same deal, it would have a really dark cloud over it, and you wouldn't have people dancing in the streets, Katie. You would have people saying, oh, my, you know, you're making a deal, but we have a guy over there with nuclear weapons all over the place. He's going to knock the hell out of us. If we didn't take out the Iran nuclear when we did, because in 2 months they would have had a nuclear weapon, this deal, even if it were done the exact same way, would have had a dark cloud over it. And now, there's no dark clouds. There's nobody they have to worry about, Katie.
Have you talked to the Qataris about their changing behavior? In your first term, you talked about how they were funding terrorism. What are they doing differently?
Yeah.
What are they doing differently in your eyes?
The Qataris really helped us with this deal. And the Emir is an amazing man who really helped us. You have to understand, his country is right in the middle of everything, more so than any other country, more so than UAE, where you have to fly an hour and a half to get there, more so than Saudi Arabia, where you have to fly an hour and a half to get there. His country, you walk across a line and you're there. So he's in the middle of this unbelievable hostile territory with people on all different sides of the, of the opinion and the question. They were a tremendous help. Qatar was a tremendous help to getting this done. I hope people can realize that.
Mr. President,
And it was very tough and very dangerous for Qatar. They were very brave, and their leader, the Emir, was very, very brave. And Qatar should start getting some credit. And you have to understand, they lived in the middle of everything. So they can't just...
All right, that's a play out of US President Donald Trump speaking with the media while he was on board Air Force One. But I'm joined right now by Ambassador Jeremy Issacharoff, former ambassador of Israel to Germany. Ambassador, big moment for Israel.
Yes, indeed. It's a very important moment after 2 years of war and having over 250 hostages in Gaza. Hopefully, we're beginning to see the end of this horrific saga, which is going to be a very mixed moment of a lot of joy, relief, but also sadness in terms of the people who are not coming back. There will be 20 freed hostages today, living hostages. There's supposed to be, in addition, 28 dead hostages to be returned to Israel. It's going to be a very long day, and it's going to be a very tough day. There's going to be tears, both of joy and both of sadness as well. So I think it's going to be, we're going to have a very interesting day. And obviously we have President Trump, who's just landed in Israel and going to make a major speech in the Knesset. So it's going to be a very major news day in Israel.
Major news day indeed, Ambassador. I request you to stay on with us. We're going to be slipping to a short break, but this remains our top focus. Many questions for you on the road ahead. We'll be back in a moment from now.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, most stunning true color pro grade camera. Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the true flagship killer.
नहीं बचेगा। फ्लिपकार्ट बिग बैंग दिवाली।
Across the country.
He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. And now, Aditya Rajkol begins a new chapter at NDTV.
Actually, I'm taking off because the stories I cover don't sit still. To bring the world to India and to take India to the world, I need to be where action is.
Aditya Rajkol, covering international affairs like no one else, only on NDTV network.
वॉल्यूम कम करेंगे? आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
भाभी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी, ये आपके लिए।
मैंने कहा था ना, कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
ब्रेकिंग न्यूज का जमाना है। सबको तिल का ताड़ और राई का पहाड़ बनाना है। ऐसे में जनता के जूते के अंदर फंसा कंकड़ कौन देखे? बड़े बड़े मुद्दों के शोर में जमीन से जुड़े मुद्दे अक्सर खो जाते हैं। लेकिन देश तरक्की तब करता है जब जनता के माथे की शिकन हमारी हेडलाइंस बनती है। मैं सैयद सुहेल भारत को जीता हूं, भारत की बात बताता हूं। एनडीटीवी इंडिया पर।
What does the youth of Bihar want in this election? I will dissect and explain.
When it comes to elections, I crunch numbers and tell you what others miss.
Bihar elections, the what, why and how.
I read Bihar politics like no one else.
For over 4 decades now, I have had a ringside view of some of India's biggest election. This time, I will bring to you the twists and turns of Bihar elections.
Understand the real election dynamics in Bihar. With me on Bihar Battleground.
The ultimate battle for Bihar. NDTV unites the biggest voices, unmissable debates and data discourse. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
आप बात से सहमत हूं कि हम भी सब विदेश जाते हैं। The best app to use is the NDTV app.
She's a ballerina who defies gravity, a quantum physicist who decodes the universe. At the NDTV World Summit, Merit More brings science and
Welcome back. 7 Israeli hostages have been released in Gaza and are now in custody of the Israeli military. The IDF has confirmed in moments from now we could see more of those hostages being released as part of that fragile ceasefire brokered by many leaders of countries with Israel as well as the Hamas. Crowds have erupted in cheers at Tel Aviv's Hostages Square as the news of the release spread. And we have with us Israeli diplomat Ambassador Jeremy Issacharoff, former ambassador of Israel to Germany. Ambassador, thanks for staying with us. Let's just talk about the road ahead as well. But before that, we see on our screens the US President Donald Trump, the man who claims he is the person behind brokering this fragile ceasefire between the Hamas and Israel. But the reality also is that Egypt and Qatar have had a huge role to play, Ambassador.
Absolutely. And I think it's, I don't want to minimize the role of anyone who could contribute to the freeing of the hostages. This is something that has been so central to the Israeli consciousness, and talking about anything to do with security, national security, regional security. This has been very deep in our consciousness for the last 2 years, and it's a great moment of relief that we can see all of the hostages returning, and we're literally in these minutes as we speak, hoping to see the second tranche of 13 hostages being returned to Israeli hands after 7 have already arrived back in Israel. We also have to have the next steps that are going to be more complicated in terms of the hostages that aren't alive. It's possible that not all of them will be returned at this point. And then we have to begin to think of, first of all, Israel as how we get into a healing process and how we create a new strategic reality in Gaza that will provide, greater stability and avoid, future clashes like this.
But the question also, Ambassador, at this point is that there is a ceasefire brokered, but does this mean this is going to be the end of the war, sir? There are many miles to cover before we can really say that, isn't it, Ambassador?
Look, first of all, I think it's the end of this phase of fighting. You know, let's not forget, Israel is standing opposite Hamas, which is a terrorist organization which is dedicated in its charter to destroying Israel. So as long as Hamas is Hamas, there's not going to be peace between Hamas and Israel, as there was in 1993 when Israel and the Palestinian Authority embarked on the Oslo process. So at the most, I hope the end of the fighting is going to be in place. There will be a ceasefire. There won't be a resumption of fighting as long as no threat is posed towards Israeli citizens, as the threat was on October 7th, when so many were killed and kidnapped. So it's not just dependent on Israel; it's also dependent on the other side. And here, the Trump plan is going to be very critical in changing the leadership, in disarming Hamas and creating a demilitarized zone without terror in Gaza, and also introducing an interim type of administration and governance there. That's going to be a very critical factor.
Ambassador, do stay with me. We will come back to you in a moment from now if we can, but we have some breaking news coming in and I will have to interrupt this conversation. There's a new chapter in India-Canada ties. The Canadian Foreign Minister is in India, as we know, and this visit signals a thaw in relations. Opening statements there while she speaks, and she is meeting with the External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar.
And certainly very welcome. And today we'll be discussing the India-Canada joint statement, which is comprehensive and covers a number of issues that will allow us to continue the work to elevate the bilateral relationship. I appreciate the words you spoke relating to the security dialogue, which, while we elevate the relationship in areas of critical minerals, energy, AI, and climate, to name a few, will continue. The meeting that our officials had relating to security and law enforcement just a few weeks ago here was very productive, and that dialogue will continue. Both of our governments agree on the importance of those dialogues. Both of our governments agree on the importance of elevating the relationship going further. So this joint statement will discuss our mutual plans for re-engagement. It will inform Canadians and Indians alike that we are collectively committed to advancing this relationship now and in the long term, particularly when it comes to our mutual priorities in the Indo-Pacific. So with that, Dhanyavad, thank you so much again. We look forward to the conversation.
All right, so that is the Canadian Foreign Minister there, Anita Anand, speaking as part of the opening statements with her counterpart in India, S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister. Now, this is a big visit by the Canadian Minister here to India, which we're expecting will reset diplomatic ties between the two countries. Vishal joining me live. Vishal, hoping for a reset with this visit, but it's not really the first in the last few months that we've seen representatives from both sides meeting on taking the bilateral ties forward.
Yes, that's what we've seen in the last few months, that both the sides have attempted to, bring the ties back on track that had been, taken off track by the incompetent administration of Justin Trudeau, who had repeatedly alleged that Indian authorities were involved behind the slaying of the terrorist in the Canadian soil. But both the sides have rallied in the last few months to bring the ties on track, and they have been successful because respective high commissioners have been appointed and they have already taken charge. We've seen that the Indian High Commissioner to Canada has been seen attending some public meetings in Canada, and the Canadian side has acknowledged this effort and they have also appointed a High Commissioner. It remains to be seen how this moves forward, because the ties had hit an all-time low when Trudeau was at the helm of affairs in Canada. The Indian side had tried repeatedly to calm the nerves down, but there had been serious allegations from the top levels of the Canadian administration. The top Canadian spy agency had also alleged something similar, that India could be behind many illegal activities on the Canadian soil, but they did not really furnish any proof for these tall claims. Many in the Canadian affairs, they themselves admitted that there was no hard proof as to the big allegation. So those days are over now. We have the ties back on track, and we are looking forward to having the ties being reset.
Sides in the past also, Vishal, have acknowledged the clear momentum for rebuilding trust on both sides, given what we've seen in these relations turning sour over the last couple of years.
That is correct. This will require much needed momentum, and we have that momentum in place, because both the sides have tried to meet each other quite a few times in the last few months. They have been proactive in a lot of these official affairs. As I mentioned, they have been able to establish high commissioners, respective high commissioners in place. These chairs had been empty for the longest time. Back in October 2023 is when Canada and India were involved in the biggest fracas, if we can say that, involving both the sides, because both the high commissioners, respective high commissioners, had been pulled back. Almost all the delegation from both the sides had been pulled back, and that had resulted in the ties being plummeting to the lowest level, the level which we had not seen, because India and Canada have been allies for the longest time, and that was sort of severed in the short term that Trudeau was there, short term that he tried to sever that with ties, but those ties are now back on track, and we'll have to only look forward as to what will happen now.
And Vishal, let's just very quickly understand from you what's on the agenda. Energy, a big issue. Just take us through what we're expecting in terms of trade and energy talks between the two countries.
When it comes to the agenda of the meeting, we have some details. We have trade diversification. That's one of the biggest things that will be talked about. Then we have energy transformation, because conservation of energy is a topic that affects both the developed and the developing world, and we have both the parties when it comes to India and Canada. And then there is security cooperation in this ever-changing world of this ever-dynamic world of foreign affairs. We have to have security cooperation, which will be discussed, and there will be focus on critical minerals and agriculture, because critical minerals is one topic that dominates almost all the high tables as we speak, because they are used in many chip manufacturing, which in turn are used in some of the biggest technologies we have in place, such as AI.
Vishal, thanks for joining us live. Let's just also listen into the opening statement by India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar.
I'm pleased to welcome you to India on your first official visit as Canada's new Foreign Minister. Our meeting today continues the constructive conversations that we have been having since our telephone call on the 26th of May. India-Canada bilateral relations have been steadily progressing in the last few months. We are working to restore and reinvigorate the mechanisms necessary to advance our partnership. As Prime Minister Modi noted during his meeting with Prime Minister Carney in Kananaskis, India's approach is to move forward with a positive mindset. This morning, you have met the Prime Minister. You have heard from him personally about our vision of cooperation and how best to realize it. I should also take note of the fact that our national security advisors and their teams had a productive meeting on the 18th of September in New Delhi, which was an important first step towards enhancing our security cooperation. Our foreign ministries at the level of Secretary or Deputy Minister also met on the 19th of September to review the overall relationship. Our trade ministers spoke recently, actually on the 11th of October. So when we look at Canada, we see a complementary economy, we see another open society, we see diversity and pluralism, and we believe that that is the basis for a close, sustainable, and long-term cooperative framework. Minister, let me also say that both sides, for our meeting today, have prepared an ambitious roadmap to advance our cooperation in various domains, including trade, investment, agriculture, science and technology, civil nuclear collaboration, AI, critical minerals, and energy. I'm glad that the two High Commissioners have assumed their responsibilities in our respective capitals and are part of today's meeting. This is our High Commissioner with whom you have spoken. Our responsibility as foreign ministers is to shepherd the process of rebuilding our cooperation and to ensure that it delivers on the expectations of our prime ministers and the interests of our people. It means not only taking initiatives in our particular jurisdiction, but to monitor and integrate interactions across the entire breadth of the government. I look forward to doing so, working closely with you. Minister, India and Canada have a long tradition of being active in world affairs. We are members of the G20 and the Commonwealth. Our convergences in the Indo-Pacific are notable. We are strong proponents of effective multilateralism, climate action, and SDG Agenda 2030. We seek to de-risk the international economy today by forging strong partnerships of growing range and depth. Your visit, Minister Anand, affords an opportunity to review the global scenario and exchange perspectives. I would now request you to deliver your opening remarks.
All right, those are the opening statements from External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his Canadian counterpart, who is in India to hold talks with the External Affairs Minister, and later in the afternoon at about 4 o'clock, she will also be meeting with the Union Commerce Minister, Piyush Goyal. But moving to the big international story of this hour, 7 Israeli hostages have been released from Gaza and are now in the custody of the Israeli military. The IDF has confirmed this. Crowds have erupted in cheers at Tel Aviv's Hostages Square as news of the release spread. Donald Trump is in Tel Aviv. He landed about half an hour back. He has been welcomed by the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. He will be also being accorded the top honor there, the civilian honor by Israel, sometime later today. Now, in return for the hostages, Israel will free 250 Palestinian prisoners and over 1,700 detainees. US President Donald Trump is also going to be heading to Egypt for a summit with about 20 world leaders. And that is the big story that we are tracking here on NDTV 24/7. But there's a letter that the US Prime Minister has also written to the people of Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has shared a heartfelt message written by Netanyahu and his wife Sarah for the returning hostages, welcoming them back after a 2-year ordeal. Let's now bring you the reactions from those families who waited for 2 years for their loved ones who were in the custody of the Hamas to return to them.
Very, very happy. Relieved. I think you can see it around the whole square. Like, the Israeli people are relieved and happy. I know. So it's a very unique morning, and maybe a morning that will change much of how we got used to live here in this country. We will get our sanity back.
I can't really trust Hamas that they'll give them back all healthy, all in good shape, all alive. It's very hard to trust them. And I'm worried that bad things are going to happen on the way. I'm worried about the bodies of the hostages that we need to get back as well. And, you know, we've been through so many bad things.
Blake Sifton, NDTV reporter, now joins me live from Tel Aviv. Blake, just take us through what's happening on the ground as I speak with you. We know that 7 of those 20 hostages have been released. What about the other 13? Have they been released yet?
That's right. The 7 hostages have been released. They've been brought by Israeli forces to a military base in Israel. They are currently reuniting with their families and undergoing initial medical and psychological treatment, and they will then be taken to one of 3 medical centers in and around Tel Aviv for more comprehensive medical treatment. Now, the remaining 13 hostages, we understand that Red Cross vehicles have arrived at the site where they will be handed over in southern Gaza. So that process we expect to begin soon. Similarly, from the earlier release, they will be taken from the Red Cross to Israeli forces in Gaza, then to that military base, then to the hospitals in Tel Aviv for treatment. Now, when it comes to the bodies of the deceased hostages, we understand that some of them will be released today. However, we understand that it will take longer to identify the location and retrieve others. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has reportedly told the family members of the hostages that it may take quite some time to locate where some of these bodies are, and that an international team will be tasked with finding them. Now, once all of the hostages...
Blake, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Yeah, so once all of the hostages that Israel expects to be released today have been released, we then expect that Israel will release the Palestinian prisoners in exchange. Now, that will include the 1,700 people detained in Gaza throughout the 2 years of this war. They include a number of children as well as medical professionals seized from hospitals. And then also, of course, there'll be the 250 so-called security prisoners. These are prisoners serving life sentences in Israeli jails. They are accused of either involvement in or orchestrating or participating in attacks over the last few decades that killed Israeli civilians and soldiers. We understand that that group, the 250 security prisoners, will be released into the West Bank, with 100 sent there, East Jerusalem with 15 released there, and 135 others will either be released into Gaza or will be sent into exile abroad.
Blake, also a word on Donald Trump as we speak, but before that, just for the benefit of our viewers, what you're seeing on your screens is the convoy of the hostages being taken into Israel across the border in moments from now. These are the first visuals that NDTV is bringing to you. But Blake, coming back to you, the man who's taken center stage in Tel Aviv as I speak with you is US President Donald Trump, who's taken complete credit for what is happening on the ground and unfolding before us. Historic in many ways. But there have been other countries like Egypt and Qatar who've had a huge role to play as well, Blake.
Yes, in many ways, President Trump has willed this entire process into existence. When Hamas responded to his 20-point peace plan, they were quite vague in their response. They said that they would release all of the hostages, and they said that they would cede control of Gaza to a transitional government of Palestinian technocrats. But they ignored almost everything else in that deal, including, crucially, the call on them to disarm and Gaza to be demilitarized. And Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly viewed that response as negative, as purposely vague. But before he could reply, we understand that President Trump said it showed that Hamas was ready for peace. It was a positive response. So at that stage, Prime Minister Netanyahu had no choice but to go along with the process, to send negotiators to Egypt. And then on the other side, as you say, mediators Qatar and Egypt, as well as Turkey, a major backer of Hamas and hosts some of their leaders, they played a crucial role in leaning very hard on Hamas and forcing Hamas really to make concessions and to bring them to this point. So it really was a combined effort of both the United States and especially President Trump and the mediators, Turkey and other Gulf countries, to lean on both sides to compel them to get to this point. Now, President Trump is currently on his way to Jerusalem. He will meet with Netanyahu at the Knesset. He will meet family members of some of the hostages, and then he will deliver an address to the Knesset. And he will be only the 4th American president to ever do so, and the first in over 17 years since President George W. Bush addressed Israel's parliament in 2008.
All right. Blake, let's look forward now for a moment and understand, does the return of hostages mean that this is the end of the war? Will Hamas remain in power in Gaza is the biggest question I have for you right now.
There are a great deal of questions that remain. I think what we should view this as today and the next few days as essentially a ceasefire, which we've seen two similar ones before, where you have a cessation of hostilities, you have hostages released, and you have prisoners exchanged, and then you have more aid entering Gaza. But on those two previous occasions, the war then renewed. Now, what's different this time is that both sides have agreed in principle to a much wider peace plan, the 20-point peace plan that President Trump is envisioning for the overall end to the war. And certainly he said that the war is over. However, a lot needs to happen to make that happen. In Israel, far-right members of Netanyahu's coalition, for whom he depends on for the survival of his government, they have said that after the hostages are released, if Hamas does not disarm, that Israel should go back to war. But Trump has provided guarantees to Hamas and others that that will not happen. Now, some of the obstacles that need to be overcome: Hamas disarming, Gaza being demilitarized. Those are key obstacles and key issues that Israel is insisting on. Now, Hamas has shown no willingness to give up all of their weapons. They've suggested that perhaps they would give up offensive weapons like rockets, but they will not surrender small arms like their rifles. Also, this transitional government of Palestinian technocrats that's meant to govern Gaza and take over from Hamas. We still don't know who will be involved in that and what process will be used to choose them. Hamas want to have a say in choosing those technocrats. And finally, a key issue is the full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, because they currently still remain in 53% of Gaza under this phase one of this deal. And their full withdrawal is tied to the progress of this international stabilization force that's meant to enter Gaza and assist with demilitarization. But we still don't know who will participate in that force and when it will be deployed.
And before I let you go, Blake, another question. Let's just focus on Gaza as well for a moment. There have been huge casualties that we've seen in Gaza. The destruction has been massive over the last 2 years. The big question really is, who will redevelop Gaza at this point, and who will fund it as well? Is that something we should expect post the talks in Egypt?
That is a major question. The UN estimates that some $50 billion is needed to begin the reconstruction of Gaza. Of course, since this ceasefire came into effect on Friday, we've seen some 500,000 people return to northern Gaza, Palestinian civilians who had fled their homes in Gaza City ahead of and during this Israeli military offensive to seize and occupy Gaza City. Many of them, when they left, said that they thought they were never going to be able to go home, either because the whole city would be destroyed or they'd be permanently displaced. So while they're going back and they are relieved, they're coming back to find widespread destruction. Entire swaths of some of these neighborhoods have been flattened. So yes, the reconstruction, the rehabilitation of critical infrastructure like sewer lines, water lines, bakeries, medical facilities, all of that is a monumental task. And the question, as you say, of who will pay for it remains to be seen, but with major world leaders and major countries involved in this entire process meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt today, hopefully we may see some clarity on that among other issues.
Thank you for joining us live, Blake, from Tel Aviv, and adding perspective to that big developing international story that NDTV has been reporting on. Also, just some time back, we heard from the US President Donald Trump while he was on board Air Force One. He was speaking on this fragile ceasefire agreement. Let's just listen into what he had to say.
If the ceasefire does hold, how long until we get to the part of the 20-point peace plan where developers can go in and make Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East?
Well, I don't know about the Riviera for a while, because you take a look at what you have. You have to get people taken care of first. But it's going to start really essentially immediately. I mean, they're going to have to start by removing a lot of structures that you see that are down to the ground. I mean, it's blasted. This is like a demolition site. Almost the entire site is. So you have to get rid of what you have there. You have structures that are very dangerous. They're falling down. If they haven't fallen, they're going to fall down of their own volition. So that process, Peter, is going to start pretty much immediately in that way. Everybody is happy, whether it's Jewish or Muslim or the Arab countries. Every country is dancing in the streets, and it's a point in time I don't think you'd ever see it again. They've never seen it for 3,000 years. If you like one group, you don't like the other group. And if you like the other group, you don't like the first group. And this is the first time they've ever seen where everybody is unified, because as you know, we're going to Egypt after Israel, and we're going to meet all of the leaders of the very powerful and big countries and very rich countries and others, and they're all into this deal. Everybody's into it. It's never happened before. So I would say this is a lot tougher, but we'll see how it all works out.
All right, moving away from international news, breaking news back home. Bengal BJP leaders are protesting in Durgapur with their supporters. BJP is pushing for Mamata Banerjee's resignation. The opposition uproar is over the Bengal rape incident that has taken place and what they are terming as insensitive comments by Mamata Banerjee soon after the incident came to light. Listen in to BJP leaders.
ममता सेड 12:30 रात को नहीं निकलना चाहिए था, रात को नहीं निकलना चाहिए था.
सेम ममता बनर्जी, सेम.
She is shifting blame. She blamed the victim. She blamed the victim that the girl went out late in the night. What is your reaction?
She completely exposed. She failed chief minister as well as police minister.
You gave an ultimatum for Chief Minister that she should apologize for her remark. What is your take on that?
No. She should submit her resignation.
Bengal BJP there asking for Mamata Banerjee's resignation, demanding that she steps down from the post of Chief Minister after the comment that she's made. But joining me live at this point from Durgapur in West Bengal is Ritik Mandal. Ritik, you have been tracking all the developments in this story. You have also spoken with the survivor's father. But at this point, the BJP protest taking center stage in Durgapur. Tell us what you're seeing there. And we know that the BJP is stepping up the attack against Mamata Banerjee. What has been the TMC's response?
Well, what we do understand, the heat is only mounting over here in Durgapur. Let me also, let you know that there's a big development that is coming at this point in time. The total 5 persons have been arrested in this heinous crime. What we are given by the police. That 2 more arrests have been done by the Sangh Showdown police today. One of which is Sheikh Nashiruddin, who is a contractual civic body worker. That's a very surprising details that is coming with regard to this horrific crime. The total number of the arrests has rises to 5. Both the arrested person who have been arrested freshly today would be produced before court today. Remember, yesterday 3 persons were produced before the local court, and they have been sent for 10 days police custody. Now the politics is only panning out over here, as BJP has demanded a resignation from the state Chief Minister of the West Bengal over her insensitive remarks. We also spoke to the victim parents, and as they feel very, very devastated, they feel that they are planning to take their child back to their home. Amid this situation, this investigations are underway. Lot of political activities are happening. BJP has kickstarted a 6-day-long dharna pradarshan over here in Durgapur. The leader of the opposition himself, flagged off that protest. What we do understand, the heat is only mounting on the Trinamool Congress government. On the contrary, what we do see that the Chief Minister herself had to say that her statement has been, misquoted by media and the opposition parties. Back to you.
All right, thanks for joining me live there. But for the BJP, it's not only from Bengal that they're launching this attack, it's also from New Delhi. Listen in.
मेडिकल स्टूडेंट है जो शाम को 8:30 बजे निकलती है बाहर, शायद डिनर पर जाने का उसका प्लान था, और 4 लोग उसके साथ दुष्कर्म करते हैं, ऐसी घिनौनी हरकत करते हैं कि वो किसी की भी रोंगटे खड़े कर दे। इसमें आप ये अपेक्षा करते हैं कि माननीय ममता बनर्जी, जो स्वयं एक महिला मुख्यमंत्री हैं, जो स्वयं स्टेट की होम मिनिस्टर भी हैं और जिनका दायित्व बनता है स्टेट की आंतरिक सुरक्षा, उनसे ये अपेक्षा करी जाती है कि वो स्टेट को इतना ज्यादा सुरक्षित कर देंगी कि महिलाएं किसी भी समय आ जा सके, निर्भीक हो, निर्भय हो। वहां पर माननीय मुख्यमंत्री ममता बनर्जी उस रेप को जस्टिफाई करती हैं।
And NDTV has also spoken with the father of the survivor. Here's what he had to say.
मैं जरा पहले जानना चाहूंगा कि आपकी बेटी फिलहाल किस हालत में है?
अभी थोड़ा स्टेबल है।
अच्छा,
बर्बाद हो गया सर, बर्बाद हो गया।
लेकिन पश्चिम बंगाल के मुख्यमंत्री कह रही है कि महिलाओं को रात को बाहर नहीं जाना चाहिए। क्या ये भी एक तरीके से ठीक है मान रहे हैं? क्योंकि देखिए आज के समय में महिला रात को बाहर नहीं जाएंगे, ये भी इसको कैसे देखते हैं?
तो गलत बात है, तो गलत बात है। महिला तो रात में
देखिए कल से आप लगातार बोल रहे हैं कि आप यहाँ पर फिलहाल इन्वेस्टिगेशन जो चल रही है, अभी तक 3 लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया गया है। क्या कहना चाहेंगे, आप इससे संतुष्ट है जिस तरीके से बंगाल की पुलिस
और भी कुछ है उसका पीछे? उसको मेरे को पुलिस वालों को रिक्वेस्ट किया जाए जल्दी से जल्दी उसको ज्यादा से ज्यादा सजा दीजिए, क्योंकि उसको जिंदगी में दूसरों को ऐसा करने के लिए नहीं है। मैं बोल नहीं पा रहा हूँ सर जी।
आपको आपकी बेटी के साथ बात हो पाया है? आपसे बात हो पाई है? उन्होंने आपको क्या बताया?
अभी ठीक ठाक है, थोड़ा स्टेबल क्या है।
ठीक, फिलहाल क्या आप यहीं पे रहेंगे? क्योंकि कल आपने जिस तरीके से कहा था कि आप सोच रहे हैं घर वापस जाने के लिए आपकी बेटी को लेकर।
नहीं, घर उसको वापस ले जाएंगे, उसको घर ले जाएंगे। यहाँ से रखने से खतरा है, यहाँ से और सिक्योरिटी नहीं है।
बंगाल में सिक्योरिटी नहीं है लग रहा है आपको?
हाँ 100%। हम नहीं, हमें यहाँ से सुनिए, पहले बेटी का लाइफ देखना पड़ेगा, बाद में करियर।
A father absolutely emotional there and absolutely surprised and shocked at the treatment received by his daughter who just stepped out of that institute to get some food back. But we're getting a lot of reactions coming in. We've brought you the reactions from the BJP. It's time to even get your reaction from the TMC as well as the left.
There is a private college. The matter nobody is supporting. You tell me when Odisha, before 3 weeks ago, 3 girls are raped in the sea beach. What action is being taken by the Odisha government? And Bengal, if anything happens on women, we don't allow anything to be considered as a casual case. It's a serious case we consider. And that girl, it's a shocking. She was studying in a private medical college. So all the private medical college, whose responsibility? How they came out in the night at 12:30. And it happens in the, so far I know, forest area. And 12:30, I do not know what happened. Investigation is on. I'm shocked to see the incident. But private medical colleges also is to take care.
আপনাদের বলি দমদের মেয়াদ ফুটে আমি কিছু বলেছি, আমার কথা ডিস্টার্ব করা হয়েছে। প্লিজ আপনাদের একটা রিকোয়েস্ট করব, আমাকে আপনারা কোশ্চেন করবেন আর তারপরে ডিস্টার্ব করবেন। আমি ভাত খাই সেটা না বলে আমি ভাত বলে দিচ্ছেন। এইসব রাজনীতি আমার সাথে করার চেষ্টা করবেন না, কারণ আমি আপনাদের সাথে মিট করি, অনেকে মিটই করেন না, কোশ্চেন তৈরি করে দিয়ে উত্তর দেয়।
How is the report presented? Report is presented by positive happenings, negative happenings, and statistical analysis. So in the statistics, there will be 1 or 2 cases in a society. You cannot find any country in the world where this really doesn't take place. We think this is heinous crime. We want the perpetrator to be punished. We have passed the law, Aparajita bill, in the government of West Bengal Assembly, and then it has gone to Delhi, but the central government has not allowed it. It is lying with the Rashtrapati ji. Now, whatever the central government does, the Rashtrapati ji does. So it is lying there in spite of our demand. It has not been passed. So the onus lies on the central government.
महिला पत्रकार प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में नहीं बैठ सकते, और ये अभया कांड के बाद अपराधियों को पकड़ने के बजाय पुलिस के जरिए प्रमाण को सब वो खराब किए, और उस वक्त भी ये कहे कि रात को अकेले महिला ड्यूटी नहीं करेगी, अकेले महिला जाएगी नहीं। ये जो सोच है, ये जो समझ है, ये बंगाल के राम मोहन रॉय, विद्यासागर, इतने दिन के हमारे यहाँ के वामपंथ आंदोलन, समाज संस्कार, इसके विरोध में है। समान है महिला और पुरुष, ये ममता बनर्जी मानती है या नहीं? कल को अगर 2-4, मैं नहीं चाहता, लेकिन अगर कत्ल हो जाए मर्दों का, तो क्या कहेंगे कि मर्दों को भी निकलना नहीं चाहिए? अरे सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है। ममता बनर्जी पुलिस मंत्री होकर के पुलिस को ऐसे हालत बनाई है कि उसके ऊपर भरोसा नहीं है।
Breaking news coming in, the Tamil Nadu Health Department has revoked the license of Srisan Pharmaceutical from manufacturing medicines. Also, detailed investigation is being carried out in pharmaceutical manufacturing companies across the state. I have Vijay joining me on the phone line. Vijay, two big developments there.
That's right, Vedika. Tamil Nadu Health Department come up with a detailed statement, the timeline of the event. They mentioned that they received a letter, one letter from Madhya Pradesh Drug Control Development on October 1 saying that asking for details alleging children were died after consuming cold drip syrup from September 4th. So on the same date, Tamil Nadu Health Department state senior drugs inspector team inspected the Srisan Pharmaceutical Manufacture Company and found there has been a toxic mix on the said syrup, cold drip syrup, and also they announced that today Srisan Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Company license is completely being revoked and orders for closure also have been issued. Even state health department mentioned that detailed investigation is being carried out to ensure such incident should never happen from the state of Tamil Nadu. Even it has mentioned that the pharmaceutical manufacturing companies across Tamil Nadu is being under detailed investigation. Today ED also conducting searches across the premises related to Srisan Pharmaceutical Company, and even Madhya Pradesh SIT team brought Ranganathan, who was arrested days before. The team has brought Ranganathan to the pharmaceutical company to the location Sungwachatram. The investigation is going on.
Vijay, thanks for joining us there. The probe net clearly widening. This, of course, has been an NDTV campaign bringing you all the twists and turns and developments on this big story. With that, we slip into a short break. News and updates on breaking ground, and moments from now, stay tuned.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, most stunning true color pro grade camera. Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the true flagship killer.
नहीं बचेगा। फ्लिपकार्ट बिग बैंग दिवाली।
वॉल्यूम कम करेंगे? आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
माँ भी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी, ये आपके लिए।
मैंने कहा था कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
Across the country. He has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. And now, Aditya Rajkol begins a new chapter at NDTV.
Actually, I'm taking off because the stories I cover don't sit still. To bring the world to India and to take India to the world, I need to be where action is.
Aditya Raj Kaul, covering international affairs like no one else. Only on NDTV network.
ब्रेकिंग न्यूज का जमाना है। सबको तिल का ताड़ और राई का पहाड़ बनाना है। ऐसे में जनता के जूते के अंदर फंसा कंकड़ कौन देखे? बड़े बड़े मुद्दों के शोर में जमीन से जुड़े मुद्दे अक्सर खो जाते हैं। लेकिन देश तरक्की तब करता है जब जनता के माथे की शिकन हमारी हेडलाइंस बनती है। मैं सैयद सुहेल भारत को जीता हूं, भारत की बात बताता हूं। एनडीटीवी इंडिया पर।
What does the youth of Bihar want in this election? I will dissect and explain.
When it comes to elections, I crunch numbers and tell you what others miss.
Bihar elections, the what, why and how.
I read Bihar politics like no one else.
For over 4 decades now, I have had a ringside view of some of India's biggest elections. This time, I will bring to you the twists and turns of Bihar elections.
Understand the real election dynamics in Bihar. With me on Bihar Battleground.
The ultimate battle for Bihar. NDTV unites the biggest voices, unmissable debates and data discourse. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
बात से सहमत हूं कि हम भी जब विदेश जाते हैं, the best app to use is the NDTV app.
She is a ballerina who defies gravity, a quantum physicist who decodes the universe. At the NDTV World Summit, Merit More brings science and art together to show us how imagination can bend the boundaries of possibility. Catch ballerina and quantum physicist Merit More at the NDTV World Summit. Live and exclusive at the NDTV World Summit 2025, 17 to 18th October on the NDTV network.
What does the youth of Bihar want in this election? I will dissect and explain.
When it comes to elections, I crunch numbers and tell you what others miss.
Bihar elections, the what, why and how.
I read Bihar politics like no one else.
For over 4 decades now, I have had a ringside view of some of India's biggest elections. This time, I will bring to you the twists and turns of Bihar elections.
Understand the real election dynamics in Bihar. With me on Bihar Battleground.
The ultimate battle for Bihar. NDTV unites the biggest voices, unmissable debates and data discourse. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
US President Donald Trump is now inside Israel's parliament. Trump, remember, is in Israel amid the hostage release, and we're now being told that all 20 hostages have been released by the Hamas. And we have with us Vishal Vivek joining me live from the newsroom. Vishal, big news there, all 20 hostages released, but now the man on our screen is taking center stage. And earlier in the day, you had US President Donald Trump even say that this perhaps is the biggest deal that he has ever been a part of.
Well, he won't be wrong about that, because so far the war has killed close to 70,000 people, 67,000 on the Gazan side and almost 2,000 to 3,000 on the Israeli side. But this is a big moment in the war, because the war seems to have finally ended to some extent. We still are to hear from Hamas as to what they think about laying down arms. That's one of the biggest contentions at the moment. But all the hostages, all 20 hostages that had been in captivity for the last 2 years, they have been released. They have been handed over to the Red Cross. 7 of them have already crossed to the Israeli side. They have crossed the Gazan territory and they are into the Israeli side. They have been handed over to the Israeli military by the Red Cross. They are yet to meet their families. That will happen very shortly. But the remaining 13 hostages, they are en route to the Israeli territory. They have been handed over from the from the Hamas side to the Red Cross team, which means Hamas at this moment does not have even a single hostage in its territory. That is the biggest update, because Hamas had been playing on that card. That was the biggest bargaining chip of Hamas as far as it is concerned, as far as the war is concerned.
And Vishal, also according to the Times of Israel, the transfer of deceased hostages' bodies is scheduled for this afternoon. So that's another report coming in. But I think the focus very soon after Donald Trump addresses the Israeli parliament will move to Egypt, isn't it? Where the future of Gaza will also be determined.
That's correct, because so far it all seems hunky-dory as far as the deal is concerned. It's a 20-point deal, mind you. It will have to be thrashed out. The details will need to be thrashed out by both the sides, Israel and Hamas. They have agreed to a larger extent on the overall deal, but many things are still to be thrashed out, such as whether Hamas will lay down its arm, whether Hamas will agree to not have any part in future governance of Gaza. That is one of the biggest questions. The third one is that whether Israel will totally withdraw from the Gaza territory, because there are 3 stages of withdrawal that Israel will have to undergo. It has already undergone the first stage, but it still occupies almost half of the Gaza Strip. So whether it will take some time for Israeli troops to get out of the Gaza Strip, that will have to be seen. But you're right when you say that it's all about Trump at the moment, because he has been able to crack the deal, which almost no one had been able to. He had been trying really hard. He had sent his ambassadors to almost all corners of Middle East. Qatar and Egypt had been trying to do some background work. They were the ones that started negotiations, but it was only after Trump joined in that it was successful. And just now, Steve Witkoff, the US ambassador to the Middle East, he has also revealed that even UK played a huge part in cracking of the deal, because Jonathan Powell, the national security advisor of UK, he has been credited by the US side as to playing a big part in cracking of the deal. So there are some new players emerging. We'll have some new pictures of the remaining hostages that are set to cross into the Israeli territory. We already had the pictures of some of the hostages that had gone into the Israeli territory.
Charles, I'll be back with you in a moment from now, but a quick recap for our viewers. After 2 years now, Hamas holds no more living hostages, as the final 13 hostages have been handed over to the Red Cross and then, of course, to the IDF. You have US President Donald Trump there at the parliament in Israel. He will be addressing the members of parliament shortly. There's been jubilation that we've seen at the hostage square as well in Israel. And of course, we are also getting to know, according to reports, that the bodies of the deceased will be handed over to Israel this afternoon. Now, going back to Vishal, I think the Egypt talks are going to be highly crucial, and one of the biggest challenges that the delegations who are going to be present there from different countries, the top leaders there, that they will have to discuss is the rebuilding of Gaza as well, and who will be funding it.
Yes, and talking about rebuilding of Gaza, some estimates suggest that it could take, decades to, bring Gaza back on its feet, because almost 80% of the Gaza Strip is almost rubble now, close to billions of dollars of damage. Some estimates suggest that the damage could be running into 200 to 300 billion dollars. That's a mammoth amount for an impoverished territory that has almost always existed under the close eyes of Israel, under the close guard of Israel. The Gazans, even before the war, they could not really get out of the territory before if they didn't have permission from the Israeli side. So that goes to show Israel always had its upper hand when it comes to the Gazan territory.
All right.
Yeah.
Vishal, thanks for joining us live there. We, of course, will bring you all the developments from the ground. We have a correspondent in Tel Aviv as well. Blake has been bringing you all the updates. Vishal, Gauri and Vishnu Som here from New Delhi also bringing you the latest. But there you have Donald Trump inside the parliament in Israel. He will be addressing the members of parliament shortly. Slip into a short break. News and updates will continue in a moment from now. Stay tuned.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, most stunning true color pro grade camera. Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the true flagship killer.
Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau's rumored romance is once again making headlines. The duo have been spotted together in what looked like a cozy moment on the singer's yacht.
नहीं बचेगा। फ्लिपकार्ट बिग बैंग दिवाली।
वॉल्यूम कम करेंगे? आपका पार्सल फिर से हमारे घर पे आया है।
कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में।
माँ भी हमेशा पीमाक मस्टर्ड ऑयल में ही खाना बनाती थी, ये आपके लिए।
मैंने कहा था ना, कुछ तो बात है इस दिल में। P-Mark, the mustard specialist since 1933.
Across the country, he has tracked the pulse of power from Washington to Korea. Witnessed history being made in global capitals and conflict zones. Brought clarity to complex issues of national security and international affairs. And now, Aditya Raj Kaul begins a new chapter at NDTV.
Actually, I'm taking off because the stories I cover don't sit still. To bring the world to India and to take India to the world, I need to be where action is.
Aditya Raj Kaul, covering international affairs like no one else, only on NDTV network.
ब्रेकिंग न्यूज का जमाना है, सबको तिल का ताड़ और राई का पहाड़ बनाना है। ऐसे में जनता के जूते के अंदर फंसा कंकड़ कौन देखे? बड़े बड़े मुद्दों के शोर में जमीन से जुड़े मुद्दे अक्सर खो जाते हैं। लेकिन देश तरक्की तब करता है जब जनता के माथे की शिकन हमारी हेडलाइंस बनती है। मैं सैयद सुहेल भारत को जीता हूं, भारत की बात बताता हूं, NDTV इंडिया पर।
What does the youth of Bihar want in this election? I will dissect and explain.
When it comes to elections, I crunch numbers and tell you what others miss.
Bihar elections, the what, why and how.
I read Bihar politics like no one else.
For over 4 decades now, I have had a ringside view of some of India's biggest election. This time, I will bring to you the twists and turns of Bihar elections.
Understand the real election dynamics in Bihar with me on Bihar Battleground.
The ultimate battle for Bihar, NDTV unites the biggest voices, unmissable debates and data discourse. Battleground Bihar on NDTV 24/7.
The best app to use is the NDTV app.
दुनिया भर में जब भी भारतीय मीडिया की चर्चा होती तो एनडीटीवी सबसे पहले जिक्र में आता है।
बात से सहमत हूं कि हम भी सब विदेश जाते हैं। The best app to use is the NDTV app.
She is a ballerina who defies gravity, a quantum physicist who decodes the universe. At the NDTV World Summit, Merit More brings science and art together to show us how imagination can bend the boundaries of possibility. Catch ballerina and quantum physicist Merit More at the NDTV World Summit. Live and exclusive at the NDTV World Summit 2025, 17 to 18th October on the NDTV network.
What does the youth of Bihar want in this election? I will dissect and explain.
When it comes to elections, I crunch numbers and tell you what others miss.
Bihar elections, the what, why and how.
I read Bihar politics like no one else.
For over 4 decades now, I have had a ringside view of
Hello and a warm welcome to the Southern View. I'm Sam Daniel from Chennai. In the next 30 minutes, my colleagues from across South India will join me to bring all the news developments from southern part of India. Umar Sudhir from Telangana, Ashish from Vijay, Deepak Bopana and Ritu from Karnataka, my colleague Vijay from Chennai and Ashwin from Kerala. Let's begin with news from Tamil Nadu. Hours after the Supreme Court ordered a CBI probe into the Karur TVK rally stampede recently that killed 41 people, the ruling DMK in Tamil Nadu questioned the idea behind a CBI probe. In fact, the Supreme Court ordered a 3-member commission to inquire the case headed by retired Judge Justice Ajay Rastogi. He'll also be assisted by 2 IPS officers from the Tamil Nadu cadre, but who are not born in the state. And the Tamil Nadu Special Investigation Team ought to hand over all its documents and files to the CBI. In fact, this has come as a shot in the arm for the TVK, which alleges foul play or conspiracy by the ruling DMK, which the ruling party has denied. In fact, the court also has made some strong observations over the Madras High Court on its jurisdiction when this ought to be heard by the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court, and also made some observations on the TVK's argument that the party was not heard, although an order was passed against it. And this is what the DMK spokesperson TKS Ilangovan had to say.
More than one state is involved. For a single state involvement, only the state police will investigate. I don't know why the CBI is being called to investigate this case, but it is a court order. We cannot say anything on that. It is the court has decided, but under the supervision of 3 judges. And I think this is the first time that any investigation is to be carried out under the supervision of 3 judges, 3 retired judges. Let us see what happens. But the one question still the Vijay and his team, who are cheating the people continuously, has not answered is why Vijay came to that place at 7:30 in the night when he was slated to speak there at 12 o'clock.
இந்த தவறு தாவேக்கா தான் செய்துன்னு வாய் தரன்னு சொல்லாம அவங்க பக்கத்தை நியாயத்தை மட்டும் சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. இதுவே அவங்க அமைச்ச கமிஷனுடைய ஒரு அதிகார மீறலுங்கிறத நாங்கள் பதிவு பண்றோம். நம்பர் 1. நம்பர் 2, உயர்நீதிமன்றத்தில் ஒரு கேஸ் ஃபைல் பண்ணாங்க. அது யார் கேஸ் ஃபைல் பண்ண மக்களுக்கு தெரியும். அந்த கேஸில் ப்ரேயரே கிடையாது. தமிழக வெற்றி கழகத்திற்கு எதிராக, அதுவும் குறிப்பாக எங்கள் தலைவருக்கு எதிராக கடுமையான வார்த்தைகள், அவருடைய தலைமை பண்பு, அவருடைய வருகை, அவருடைய அரசியல் வருகை, என்ன கோபம் உங்களுக்கு? அப்போ மதுரை ஹைகோர்ட்டில் கேஸ் ஃபைல், எஸ்ஓபி பற்றி கேஸ் ஃபைல் இருக்கும்போது ப்ரேயர் சம்பந்தமே இல்லாமல் சென்னை உயர்நீதிமன்ற நீதிபதி அவர்கள் எஸ்ஐடியை ஃபார்ம் பண்ணி, அந்த எஸ்ஐடியோடைய நோக்கம் நியூட்ரலா இருக்குமா, டிரான்ஸ்பரன்சியா இருக்குமான்னு தெரியாது, வெளிப்படைத்தன்மையா இருக்குமான்னு தெரியாது. ஏன்னா அந்த உயர்நீதிமன்ற நீதிபதி அவர்கள் கடுமையாக தமிழக வெற்றி கழகத்தை நாங்க தான் தப்பு செஞ்ச மாதிரி ஆல்ரெடி அவர் ஒரு பதிவு பண்ணிட்டார். எந்த விதமான என்கொயரியும் கிடையாது.
Varjana, TVK's General Secretary, speaking in Delhi after the Supreme Court order. Let's go over to my colleague Vijay from another part of Chennai. Vijay, the ruling DMK is simply refusing to accept that this order is a huge setback for the Tamil Nadu government.
That's right, Sam. DMK still yet to make a detailed comment on the court order which orders for CBI investigation into the Karur tragedy. But however, DMK remains saying that there was a mistake from TVK side. Even TK Silangoban mentioned that Vijay deliberately delayed to reach the Karur, the destination to do campaign, which led to a stampede-like situation. So Vijay is responsible. Vijay has to answer to the people. Even DMK spokesperson said they will say these issues, these deliberate attempt from Vijay to CBI inquiry also. This is seen as a huge setback for DMK government. However, earlier because the opposition parties from ADMK, BJP and TVK asked for the CBI probe into the incident, saying that there is some sort of conspiracy behind the Karur tragedy. They believe that there is involvement of DMK government, especially the former minister Sendil Balaji. However, DMK refused that. Even Sendil Balaji said politicizing such issues and giving conspiracy theory is an insult to the Karur people. DMK has been refusing this. But however, there was a petition before Supreme Court asking for CBI probe. Even TVK wished for the CBI probe into the incident. Today, Supreme Court has ordered CBI probe. TVK Arun Raj spoke with NDTV where he mentioned that they welcome this judgment. They even said justice will prevail with this CBI probe. Sam.
Thank you, Vijay. You please stay on. We'll come back to you again in a short while. And the Supreme Court has ordered a CBI probe, and this comes amid a tug of war between the ruling DMK and the TVK, particularly after the TVK suffered a setback in the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court and the Madras High Court, which had constituted a special investigation team under Inspector General of Police Asra Garg. The Tamil Nadu government had also constituted a single-member inquiry commission under retired Justice Aruna Jagadeesan. And the TVK went to the top court reiterating its earlier claim that it believes this could be a conspiracy by the ruling DMK. Sometime back, I spoke to TVK's General Secretary for Propaganda and Policy, Arun Raj, who is also a retired IRS officer.
Sir, what's your first response to the Supreme Court's directions and orders today?
Good morning. We have not seen the full order, but having seen this news, we welcome this judgment. What we asked for is a free, fair and impartial probe which is monitored by Supreme Court judges, and I think the Supreme Court has delivered this judgment. So we welcome this judgment.
Are you worried that the matter will be with the CBI, and then there are opposition parties which have alleged that the CBI is under the control of the central government? Do you have any such concerns?
This is the primary reason why we asked for a court-monitored probe, which will be monitored by retired Supreme Court judges. And I think this CBI probe will be monitored by judges, and this is what we have asked for. And I think if there are any concerns in the future, we'll be free to approach the Supreme Court again.
All right. Thanks very much, Mr. Arun Raj. Very briefly, one question. When is there any clarity on when Vijay will be restarting his campaign and when he will be visiting Karur?
We are working on it. That venue and this timing and all, we are working along with in consultation with the district police authorities. And once it is finalized, we'll be organizing very soon.
While both the key opposition AIADMK and the BJP are owing, in a sense, TVK to come to their fold ahead of the 2026 assembly elections, how do these political parties look at the development from the Supreme Court? Let's listen in for some political reactions from AIADMK and the BJP.
The Supreme Court has categorically taken into account of the merits of the petitioners